Welcome to the 58th episode of Impact Media Presents. As you know, we've started a special mini series called Impact Media Presents Where Do We Go From Here? And now we are actually doing a highlight of Where Are They Now? And so today we have a very, very special guest. His name is Art Johnson. He is the CEO of Infinity Systems and the founder and creator of Ecometrics, the DEI diversity assessment tool. Welcome, Art. It's great to see you again. How are you?
Kelly, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Great to have you back. So this segment is all about you. It's real short, sweet, and to the point. We just want to know, what have you been up to in the past year? It's been about a year since you were on. You were just launching Ecometrics. Tell us about this journey.
So the exciting thing is, before we got into the measurement of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we had been measuring this thing called organizational alignment.
Yes.
And that tool is called Orgometrics. And the opportunity there to figure out how aligned an organization is around its mission and vision, we thought was the end all be all. But by virtue of measuring that, what we found was that there's a subset of the group within an organization that feel disenfranchised. And oftentimes they're misaligned. So by measuring alignment, you are also measuring misalignment, and it kind of walked us into the space of measuring diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we do all that work through the lens of cultural competency in a tool that we refer to as Ecometrics that you alluded to. So between the launch of Ecometrics and the launch of my book, The Art of Alignment, which came out in February, Black History Month,
I've been. You're jumping ahead. We're gonna do one at a time.
Well, you asked me what I've been up to.
We're excited about the book. Absolutely. We know about what's been happening with Ecometrics. Then we're gonna break down and introduce the book.
I gotcha. Well, sorry to get ahead of myself. This idea of measuring DE&I coming on the heels of what happened in Minneapolis, specifically with George Floyd and now Dante Wright, and it just seems like every week it's something that's happening. And, you know, I had known for a very long time that we had an issue in law enforcement in Minnesota. But I think a lot of the things, people are aware of what's going on now more so than ever. And I think change is on its way. It can never happen fast enough, but I do believe change is on its way.
Definitely. So tell us how Ecometrics is contributing to that change and where.
Well, the ability to get a baseline read of how culturally competent an organization is important, because if we're trying to figure out what it is we need to go to work on, we need informed data to kind of get there. So the concept of measuring 9 independent constructs, using those as creating that kind of allowing them to come together in a harmonious way, ultimately driving higher levels of cultural competency is where we want to go. But when we peel it back, we measure each of the constructs. You know, because you have a diversity challenge doesn't mean you have to have an inclusion challenge, and vice versa. And so we want to figure out specifically where it is that we want to focus our time and attention so we can get healthier faster. And we also want to be able to pull out some of the best practices along the way, share those in this, what we call ecosystem of equity, so that we can start to get the playing field level faster.
Definitely. So tell us why Ecometrics is unique.
Well, you know, the first step is getting that baseline read, right?
Yeah.
And then ultimately some good consultants like yourself and others that are able to work at the elbow of leaders and help them get healthier is kind of that next step. But then when we come back and measure that second time is where the special sauce kind of kicks in, because what we're able to do is look at the areas that have improved, how much did they improve by, and then what were the drivers behind it. So what initiatives did the organization take on that ultimately changed the performance of it? And then what was the outcome of that work? So in other words, because we are now a more culturally competent organization, what does that mean? Are we more profitable? Do we have less turnover? Do we have fewer escalations in law enforcement? There's all types of things that we can begin to figure out, measuring the degree to which those events correlate. And if that Cronbach alpha score, getting technical on you here, but if that Cronbach alpha score is one that's high, we know that we have a strong correlation. And at that point in time, we know where to focus our time and attention. And this gives leaders a chance to revisit the strategic plan, because if we're trying to be who we say we are, then we want to make sure that we're taking those necessary steps to make that happen.
Definitely. Speaking of technology and ecometrics being unique, I know there are a lot of DEI firms that do assessments, but
Mhm.
yours is one that is driven by technology. It's all electronic, and the fact that you're a Black-owned business, isn't that very unique about Ecometrics?
Well, thanks for the lead in there. Yes, we
Yeah.
are black owned business, and yes, the technology that we use to deploy the instrument, we've paired it back to 29 items, and so many times you'll see these instruments that are 150 questions, and by the time you get done with it, you're exhausted and forgot what it is that you're actually out to measure. And then
Right.
also, it becomes when you look at the actionability of an instrument, you want to make sure that you're not worn out in terms of the initiatives that it's going to take to drive toward salvation. So we've paired it back to 29 questions. It was a long process to get there. Extremely pleased with that because at the end of the day, if you're trying to measure cultural competency, you want the psychometric score to be high. And we've been able to strike that delicate balance between keeping the questions down to a minimum, 29,
Mhm.
and having a psychometric score for the entire assessment of 98%.
And those 29 questions, that basically equates to about 15 minutes or so taking the
Uh,
survey, somewhere
about
around
it's about 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Neat. Neat. Now that's very unique, and I really appreciate you bringing this to the marketplace. Tell us who have you been working with? Who's using Ecometrics?
So, it's interesting. We launch in 2 weeks with the uh, Attorney General's office in Minnesota. We have clients all around the country that are using Equimetrics, some of the largest school districts, in fact, the largest in Minnesota and the largest in Iowa. So we have every time we get a chance to tell the story, people are signing up for this. So I'm excited about that. Um, but a lot of them want to remain anonymous. They want to
Okay.
do this work and they don't want their score to be known necessarily.
Mhm.
But yet are about doing the work. So we've launched with over 100 different organizations in
Wow.
just less than a year.
Wow. Any exciting developments that you can share?
So we haven't had an organization go back for the second round, but we're now at that phase where that's starting to happen. And so we're really excited about what that means. So again, now we can see where those improvements are.
Yeah.
Is the playing field truly level? What has that meant for people of color within the organization, or though anybody that feels disenfranchised for whatever reason? We want to be able to figure that out and help organizations get healthier so that people aren't left behind.
Absolutely. And, I'm going to spill the beans a little bit. I don't think they would mind, but, the fact that you're a Drake alum and so am I, we were there together. We've got some Drake alums who are viewing today. I'm pretty excited to announce that, we're in conversations with Drake about, Drake actually doing some work with us in the DEI space. And that's really exciting, especially with the leadership and advocacy we've had on campus and the development that we've had professionally to be able to support Drake in this, very significant way at this very special time in Drake's history and in the history of the world right now. So really, really excited about that.
Kelly, I'm excited as well. I want to see Drake really get going with this because I got the University of Minnesota, who we work very closely with.
Yes.
University of Illinois uses our tool. Northwestern is about to launch with us. So come on,
Yes.
Drake, let's get it going.
Exactly.
Come on,
Exactly. And
Bulldogs.
Drake alums, let's start the phone banking.
Yeah, I let them know.
Absolutely. So next, let's talk about your book, The Art of Alignment.
Mhm.
Very, very excited about that. I know it's been in the works for a little bit. And tell us about the book. You launched in February, you said.
February this year, we were right out of the gate. Within a month, we were an Amazon bestseller.
Wow.
So I was excited about
Congratulations.
that. And then
Absolutely.
just about 6 weeks ago, we learned that we were Wall Street Journal bestseller, #2 overall.
Wow.
So a lot of traction, a lot of fanfare. I have some outstanding endorsements, support for the book, and so check it
Tell
out.
us about some of the endorsements.
Well, the late Larry King was a big endorsement, and
Mm.
I was going to go on that show and talk about equimetrics, but specifically orgometrics for that segment. And obviously we lost him and didn't get a chance to do that. But just a really solid dude. very supportive of the work. Harvey McKay wrote the foreword. We have admirals, President Lonzer of Alpha Alpha, my fraternity,
Oh, wow.
is an endorser as well. So we have kind of a who's who.
That's awesome. So as we're wrapping up, Art, I want you to tell everyone, how they can learn more about Ecometrics and bring it to their companies, their organizations that they're affiliated with, whether it's a nonprofit, a social organization, anyone that, really needs to do an assessment around diversity, equity, and inclusion to make changes, as Art said, as it relates to cultural competency. And that could be if you're an employee of a company, if you're in leadership with the company, if you're a member of a member organization, there are lots of opportunities. Who are some other target audiences for you that I might be missing? Education institutions, if you're a student or faculty or administrator, police departments, so other social agencies.
So Kelly, we've done them all sectors and all industries, from law enforcement to education, banking to insurance. So it's industry and sector agnostic. And the most important thing is that you have a leader that is curious about the level of cultural competency of the organization and wants to do something about it. And so the ecosystem that we've created, I'm extremely excited about it, because not only are we able to leverage normative data so that organizations can figure out how they fare versus other like organizations, but also can learn from some of the pitfalls and opportunities that come from having gone through the process. So the measurement, quick and easy, 10 minutes, that's all it takes. We get the data back within less than a week. But then we're sitting at the table with leaders and figuring out, all right, what sorts of activities can we engage in to ultimately drive that level of cultural competency that we all seek. And by using these best practices, we're able to get there faster, level the playing field. The organization performs better, but it's also a more cohesive, collective environment where we can all thrive and flourish. So I'm excited about that work. You can certainly learn more about this on our website, equimetrics.net, EQUIMETRICS.net. And certainly can get my book, which talks a little bit about some of the constructs of it, and you can get that through Amazon or wherever you get your books.
So Art, I know you like to keep your hands full. You keep a lot on your plate. What's next? Is there anything exciting that you can share?
I'm thinking about maybe one more book. I could
one more book. Okay.
That's a possibility. Looking at this Ecometrics thing, and as we get a little bit better with the longitudinal data information that we can share along those lines, I think will be helpful. And I think beginning to share some of the conversations that we're having in this space. There's a lot of people that are uncomfortable about these kind of conversations, and I think it's important that we have them. And I think we need to have them with a clear mind and with a clear heart. And keep things front and center. I mean, I just learned about a great uncle of mine that is a part of the Lynch Museum down in Mississippi. So I'll be down there to go check that out. But, again, these are all life experiences that bring us to where we are today. And at the end of the day, the only way we get healthier is through having the effective dialogue.
Absolutely. And you talked about people being uncomfortable. It's important that people are willing to be uncomfortable, to have those conversations. And it's going to be uncomfortable, initially, but be willing to be in that space in order to get to the growth and healing necessary.
Kelly, that's where I want to applaud you and the work that you do. This is phenomenal that you bring these things front and center, give us a chance to talk about them, put them out there. And it's the beginning of the dialogue. So congratulations to you and thank you.
No, thank you so much, Art. Look forward to having you back with more updates on Ecometrics and both books. And, if you want to come back and talk about your experience at the museum, we'd love to hear about that too.
I will. If I can handle it emotionally, I will.
Yes. Well, I'm sure you can. So we'll figure that out. We'll figure out the timing of that. Okay. Is that a deal?
Yeah, as long as it's not fresh off the trip. But yes, absolutely.
Exactly. No, we'll give you some time. All right. It was always great to see you. Great working with you. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Kelly, thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Have a great week. Thank you again for tuning in to this episode of Impact Media Presents Where Are They Now? Ecometrics featuring CEO Art Johnson. We look forward to seeing you in the coming week. Take care. Have a great week.